So it is time to replace our Helm iPad with something new. This is a 6-year-old 11-inch iPad Pro, and we're upgrading to either the new 2024 M2 iPad Air or the 2024 M4 iPad Pro. Which one is better for marine use? We bought them both and are putting them to the test. Stay tuned.
Staying on the path that I've chosen, straight up, come my way and I'll see you at the top. 'Cause something's gonna happen in this story, and I can feel it coming like the rising of the sun. Straight up.
So we've been using iPads as our primary navigation system for basically ever since we had our boat, because the navigation apps are so much more advanced than the marine MFDs for the navigation purposes. And then we let the marine MFD be our backup. But there are some challenges when you're using an iPad for your navigation. And the biggest one we've had with our 6-year-old iPad Pro is on a bright day, the screen can be a little bit hard to read when you're driving from outside on the flybridge. And also, well, it's a 6-year-old iPad. It's starting to be a little bit sluggish and has a few other issues. So now that Apple has just announced 2 new major iPad updates, a whole new generation of iPad Air and the new M4 iPad Pro, now would be a good time to upgrade. But, well, can we get by with an iPad Air, or do we need to invest in a Pro yet again? To decide, we bought them both and have been comparing them. But first off, we made 2 decisions that helped kind of narrow down our choices to begin with. First off, we decided we wanted to go with the 13-inch screens. Our old iPad Pro was an 11-inch model, which is a decent size, but for outside and looking at the helm and looking at charts from a distance, bigger is better. So now that these are both offered in 13-inch, we decided 13-inch would be our new baseline. Now, the other thing that we've decided in advance, in addition between deciding that we wanted a 13-inch screen, is we decided we wanted to get the cellular model of the new iPad. So adding 5G cellular adds $150 cost to the iPad Air or $200 to the cost of the iPad Pro. And that gets you 5G cellular, which is very, very useful for a lot of reasons. We go into them over at the Mobile Internet Resource Center. We use our iPads for work, for streaming video, for anything else. There's a lot of great affordable 5G data plans. But also something that a lot of people don't realize is that if you don't have the cellular model of an iPad, the iPad does not have a GPS chip. The cellular and GPS chip are basically combined. So if you have the Wi-Fi only iPad, there is no GPS in it, so it cannot get a precise location fix. It just kind of borrows a location from nearby phones or from Wi-Fi and stuff like that. So not so good for navigation. But there is kind of a bit of a catch with that, is iPads have also notoriously had an iPad GPS glitch that has really frustrated a lot of cruisers, because ever since the 2018 iPad Pro, Apple seems to have a power saving system that if it detects that you are moving very slowly and smoothly, like, say cruising at 7 miles an hour on smooth, glassy waters, which is our favorite way to cruise, the iPad basically says, I guess I'm not in motion, and it turns the GPS chip off to save power. So your speed will go to 0, your dot will stop moving on the map and everything else. So the built-in GPS has actually been kind of frustrating on the iPad for slow, smooth water cruisers for quite a while. But the alternative is, if you have an external GPS on Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, most navigation apps support that, and you connect to the external GPS. We use the one that's built into our Peplink router, and we never have to worry about the built-in navigation and GPS having that sort of glitch. But that would be a reason we could consider leaving the 5G module off, saving the money on that. But there's so many other reasons that we use the 5G, and it is also nice to have that built-in redundancy, even if these new models may or may not have fixed that bug that has plagued all of the iPads since 2018. So we'll have to see that from longer extended testing with smooth cruising, whether that is fixed. But so we've decided we do want 13-inch screen. We do want integrated 5G, and that leaves us with 2 options to consider. The iPad Pro M4 13-inch with a cellular and 256 gigabytes of storage is $1,499 for the price. And it is a pretty impressive technical showcase. It is the new M4 chip, which is in a lot of ways actually the most advanced CPU in the world. It is brand new from Apple, hasn't even made it to laptops yet, and has got a lot going for it. But a lot of that power is also wasted and overkill on tablet usage. And the other new device is the M2 iPad Air, and the version we are considering is the 13-inch with 256 gigabyte of base storage for $1049. So $450 difference between this and this. They both have 13-inch screens. They both have 5G cellular. They both have CPUs that are probably more than capable for anything we want to throw at them. So why spend extra for the iPad Pro? Well, how well do they compare on the flybridge of a boat? And that is what we've been comparing for a few days, where we return the loser to Apple. And, well, really what it comes down to is it is all about the screen. When you're out here in challenging conditions, can you see it? Can you read the screen in sunny days and bright light? And does the iPad Pro's amazing new OLED screen have advantages? And, well, yes, it does. So let's go through the advantages we've been testing and comparing and the differences we've noted between these two devices. So the big difference is just raw screen brightness. So our old 11-inch iPad Pro was maxed out at 600 nits brightness, full brightness, and the new iPad Air is also still a 600 nits brightness device. So it has really no on-paper brightness upgrade. In practice, we see a little bit more brightness out of it, but the iPad Pro's got a 1,000 nit display that can actually reach 1,600 nits for HDR content. So much brighter display, and in practice, out here, outside, we actually see a significant difference. So that right there is a huge win for the iPad Pro. You no longer have to squint and lean in nearly as much to see the screen, and, well, big win there. Next up is kind of these things, sunglasses. When it's bright out, the captain of the pilot of the boat is very likely going to be wearing sunglasses. And how does the screen respond to sunglasses? And we've discovered that our old iPad Pro and the iPad Air have a bit of a polarization to them, so that when you are viewing the screens and the screens are in landscape mode, which is how we typically keep our navigation apps, the screen brightness is still visible, but the brightness is about cut in half. You rotate the screen, and the brightness just about doubles. So if you want to run your apps up and down and wear sunglasses, that's great. But if you want to run them landscape, you've got a significant challenge there. You're throwing away half your brightness. You might have to flip off your sunglasses to look down and see what you're doing. The iPad Pro, on the other hand, does not have that polarization. It looks just as good in portrait and landscape with sunglasses on. So another big, huge win for using it out here on a flybridge. Now, one other thing that we're kind of excited about is the new iPad Pro has an option called the nano texture display that is basically a nano scale treatment on the screen that eliminates reflections. And we checked this out at the Apple Store, and it is actually pretty magical. Basically you tilt your screen around and you do not see a mirror effect. You do not see the lights above you. On a flybridge like this, you really eliminate sun glare and stuff like that. It was very, very tempting, but the nano texture display is a $100 extra cost option on an iPad Pro, but it is only an option on the 1 terabyte and 2 terabyte versions of the iPad Pro, not the base 256 or 512 gigabyte storage models. So to have the option of paying that $100 extra screen upgrade, you have to pay already basically a $600 upgrade to get a much higher end iPad Pro, and that we just could not justify for a little bit less glare and reflections. We tested it in an Apple Store. It was very tempting, but not anywhere near that tempting. And if it was a $100 option on top of a basic iPad Pro or even an iPad Air, it'd be a good thing. So hopefully in the future, as the supply constraints change, maybe that's something Apple will be able to offer to all models, not just the super high-end ones. So we decided against nano texture, but it was actually pretty impressive. Now, a few other differences in the displays that we've noticed kind of testing these two head-to-head. One of the other basic display differences is called ProMotion. That is the variable refresh rate that The old Pro actually debuted back in 2018, and it continues on with the new iPad Pro, and it is a feature that the iPad Airs do not have. So that means the screen refresh rate can go 120 hertz, 120 refreshes a second, versus a max of 60. And for most things, particularly when an image is still, makes no difference at all. But when you're scrolling and panning around, it makes your image look more stable while it's in motion, not just once it's stopped. And when you're scrolling text, you can read the text as it scrolls, not just after it stops. It looks like paper sliding. So ProMotion, it's hard to know unless you're playing head-to-head, but when you're playing head-to-head, it's like, oh yeah, that is actually a pretty big deal, and is another big win for the Pro. Not nearly as big as the screen brightness. One other screen-related thing we've observed is iPads have always, when they get hot, they will dim their screen. And, well, when you're out on a flybridge and stuff, it's not too hard for things to get hot, particularly if you've got things sitting out with the sun shining directly on them. And we tested, and the new iPads, both of them, the Air and the Pro, do still suffer from dimming from heat when they are getting really, really hot in direct sunlight. Our old Pro was notorious for that, but I think from what little testing we've had so far, it seems particularly the new Pro recovers from being hot faster when you get it in shade and you get a little bit of airflow across it. And when it does dim, it does not dim nearly as much. So I think this is another win here, but I think both of the new models have just improved thermal efficiency and thermal regulating. So that's something to keep in mind. And that's basically the major conclusions we've come at comparing them. Is for our use up here, primarily for navigation, the advantages of the Pro have really won out for us. That is going to be what we're keeping. We're packing this one up to return to the Apple Store before we cast off from Charleston. And we'll be putting this into longer-term testing. We'll be keeping our old iPad Pro around as a secondary navigation display. It's always nice to have two. It actually does remind me, actually, speaking of two, one of the other advantages, one of the other reasons we went to the 13-inch screen is the 13-inch screen will let you run two apps side by side that the 11-inch versions of an iPad will not. So here I can run AquaMaps and Navionics side by side. That's something both the Air and the Pro can do. It's an advantage of the 13-inch screen is you get much better on-device multitasking. So that right there, huge reason to go 13-inch versus 11-inch. Again, that's our update. That's our testing, our hands-on playing around with these new iPads. We've decided to go with the new M4 iPad Pro, the 1000 nit screen. Seems pretty fabulous out here, and we're looking forward to keeping that as our primary helm system for the future, and we'll update if we have any further future conclusions. Take care and steer straight.
We create these videos just for fun, and we love having you along for the ride. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up, leave a comment, or if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. See you next time.